Then this little rotor should just pull right off. Now it looks like it's gonna give us some fun or some trouble. And basically what we'll do is we'll take a fastener and we'll put it in here and here, and this will assist us in just pushing off this rotor. So once I find the fastener to put in there, I'll show you how to do that, and I'll show you us just pulling off the rotor here. Okay guys, so I got my bolt here, and basically any 12mm bolt off your Honda should be able to do this here for you. And I do have a video specifically for this too, how to remove tough rotors. If you just search Fixbook tough rotor, you should be able to find that video. So basically, normally I'd use two. I just have this one sitting around right here, so that's what I'm gonna do. So, and what we're doing here is when we run this bolt down, we're pulling the rotor off because we're pushing against the hub and we're holding on to the rotor while we're pushing away. So you'll see what happens here. And then I'm just gonna come off that side and come over to the other side. I'm just gonna go back and forth, and I'm gonna wash, rinse, and repeat. And you'll see the rotor will just come off. You can also spray some PB Blaster around there, and also take your hammer and kind of hit. That'll help it along the way as well. But I'm just going to continue on here. And there we go. So it's as simple as that. That's how you take the rotor off. Now I'll show you. We'll go ahead and put our new rotor back on, and then I'll show you the rest of the stuff you need to know for putting your brakes back together. Okay guys, now we've got the new rotor. What you'll want to do is, we've got the two holes here for your screws. You're going to want to make sure you line up these guys right here with those holes. Not like you really want to put the screws back in, but once I get them worked back on here, man, and there we go. And like I was saying there, what we want to do is, once we got those lined up, I'll take one screw generally. A lot of times, like on my own cars, I don't even put any back in, but just since this is a customer's car, I want to kind of semi-do it the right way here. But it's perfectly fine to leave these off, because once you bolt your wheel back on, it's gonna make the rotor go flush. So I don't know why they put the screws in. They just do put it there, so they must have some reason. I prefer to go without doing it. I'm gonna put this on, and I'm gonna loosen it. I'm gonna have it on there real loose, again, because the wheel's gonna be pushed up against this, so it's, the screw's not going anywhere. So now basically we'll go ahead and get our bracket back on. And I will say, in the rest of the video, I did this a separate day, so you're gonna see the old rotor on here, but basically it doesn't matter because you saw everything go back on. So that's pretty much it. So we'll continue on with the project, and the new rotor's on here just because, like I said, I'm doing this a different day. So okay, we'll continue on the video now. Okay, so now I'll just take my bracket. I'll go ahead and set them on up in there. I'm gonna start my bolt. I'm gonna just put my bolt through the hole there, and I'm gonna go ahead and just get them started. And once you've got them started, you just run them back on there like that, except I'm sure you're actually gonna be using a ratchet there. And make sure that doesn't happen. Make sure your caliper stays nice and sturdy. I'm gonna I actually need to back them off just a little bit. You don't want to have them too tight. You want to be able to get this guy started as well. So I'm just going to start him down there, and then I'll go ahead and just run this guy down as well. I got them both just about ran all the way down. And then I'll go ahead and take my big 3/8 ratchet. And for these guys, you do want to tighten them pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and use my big ratchet. Oh, and just about how you saw me do it right there, and then right like that. Now we're not going to put quite as much force on our caliper slide pins because they're a little bit more sensitive. So now we'll just go ahead, and again, you're going to want to make sure your clip here is put back up in that place there. Make sure it's not bent. There we go. And you'll take your new pads, and you'll want to make sure you took note of how they came off, and you're going to want to set them back in the same way they came off. And we're also going to want to apply some caliper grease right there, and also on the slide pins when we put them back in. And like I was saying, you want to take note of how they came off, because you want the wear indicator to go on the inside if it came off from the inside, and not vice versa, because I assure you it will fit just like that. So now
I'll show you putting the grease on there and putting those new pads in. Alright, and here I'm just taking some of this high temperature brake grease, and that's what you want to take. It's the stuff they try and sell you at AutoZone or a like parts store, like maybe Advanced too. I don't know. Anyways, I'm not gonna say that, but anyways, that's normally the little things and these little plastic things. That's what it is. It's high temperature brake grease, and that's what you want. So I'm just going to dab some on each side here, and then we'll wipe clean our caliper slide pins, and we'll do the same thing. We'll apply this grease here. So I'm just going to get both of them sitting right like that. And now the next thing we'll do is we'll finish compressing our piston right here, and then we'll deal with those caliper slide pins. Okay guys, now if you're putting in brand new brake pads, what you want to do is take a C-clamp like this and get them arranged like that, and then you're going to want to tighten down, and you're going to slowly compress that piston all the way back in. Now I don't want to damage this pad because I'm putting this pad back on, and if you're doing the same, if you're just kind of checking over it, you don't need to do that. You can skip that step because the caliper is going to fit back on those old pads, because this piston isn't going to be any further than it was when you took it off. So now I'll show you. We're just going to set this guy back on, and I'll show you about how tight you want those caliper slide pin bolts tighten back on. So now we'll just take our caliper, we'll set them on over here, and we want to kind of get these little guys right here, the seals, out of our way. And I'm going to slide them over our pads, and then we'll just make sure we can fit the slide pin and it'll go on the seal. So I'm going to take this guy right here, and there's one with a seal, and I remember the slide pin with the seal went in on the top, so I'm going to set this one down here in the bottom, and just remember to take note of that when you're taking it out. So I'm going to set him down there, and then I'm going to grab my slide pin with the seal. Here he is. And these are actually lubed up really well, but I will show you me just wiping it off here and exactly what you want to do, so give me just a second so I can set up for that. So here we are. I've got a nice clean rag. I'm just going to wipe this off. And especially if it was hard coming out, you want to do this. You're going to wipe it off there nice and clean, just like that. It looks real good. And then, again, I'm going to take some of this high temperature brake grease. I'm just going to dab some on there, dab generously, and go ahead and stick this guy back in here. And then we'll just be able to work this guy back in there. And there we go. And we can see it's sliding real well. That's what you want. You want them to slide really well. So I'm going to go ahead and run both of these caliper slide pin bolts down, and I'll show you about how tight you want it. Okay, and I've ran my bolts down. Now I'm just going to put my ratchet on there and just snug it down just like that. I've ran them down, and again, just snug just like that. And these are actually pretty hefty, so it's going to be pretty difficult to strip these bolts and the threads out. So just make sure you have them snugged down well, and that's good enough. And then you want them to be sliding right like this. That's sliding really well. And before you put everything back together and drive down the road, you are going to want to depress your brake pedal all the way down to the floor, pump it up until it gets hard, and that's when this is going to straighten itself out. It's just going to be kind of stiff right like that, because the piston is going to be back to where it should be, and it's going to be holding those pads right there on the rotor. So when you go to apply the brakes, it's actually going to grab the rotor, and it's going to stop the car. Right now the piston isn't extended to where it needs to be to grab onto. So just make sure you do that before you put everything back together. And one more word about putting the wheel back on before the video comes to a conclusion. Okay, and the last little tip I want to give you guys is it's a good idea for the do-it-yourselfer like yourself to apply some anti-seize to your lug nuts. And the reason this is because most do-it-yourselfers use breaker bars and crossbars to remove their lug nuts. Over time, this really puts a lot of extra stress on the threads of the lug nuts and the studs. So it's a good idea to just apply a little bit of anti-seize like you saw me do right there. I'm going to go ahead and just run down this one lug nut, so it'll make it a little bit easier for the rest of them. I'm going to hold the wheel like that. And there we go. So now the studs are all sticking out there for me, so it's just kind of easier putting the lug nuts on that way. So that pretty much concludes today's video. Again, make sure you depress your brake pedal all the way down, tighten your lug nuts really good and tight, 85 foot-pounds if you have a torque wrench. And thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget to subscribe so you can catch all my new videos, which publish Mondays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, and I will see you then.